I see that there's a lot of excitement about Jeremiah Smith, even though he's committed to Ohio State, as long as he's taking those OBs and 2 going to Miami and Florida, but he's going to the big 3 in Florida State here in just a few weeks.
Yeah, we've got a lot of people excited about this one, and I had told everybody on my show last Monday that I wouldn't read too much into it, that, these kids are getting unlimited official visits now, and I wouldn't read too much into it because he's been verbally committed as a hard commit to Ohio State for a while now. So I just thought it was him just doing his due diligence in case things didn't work out there. If transfer portal things happen later in life, it's a possibility. And then I had one of the coaches at Florida State contact me and tell me that it was not by any means was it taken lightly, that this is an opportunity for Florida State, and that he is I don't want to say too much. He's not as locked in as people anticipated. He's not as locked in to Ohio State as we all thought he was. That Florida State has a huge opportunity, and he's coming on June 19th. There may be 1 guy, 2 guys there that date. That's a Monday. He's coming on a very weird time schedule, and Florida State's enlightened me that they're going to roll out the red carpet for him. It's going to be basically everyone's paying attention to Jeremiah Smith. That's it. So they're going to push extremely hard to impress him, see if they can get him to potentially start talking more. I don't think that he would – I don't see him decommitting from Ohio State and committing to Florida State that day or anything, but they're going to try to get in his ear deep enough to continue to talk to him, and before signing day try to get him to flip. But Florida State this weekend coming up for June 2nd.
Chris, real quick before you continue, I'm just sorry to interrupt, but I'm going to interject a statement that was often made by one of your favorite football coaches, and everybody listening in the chat. Urban Meyer used to say at Ohio State, hey, we're in Ohio. This is Ohio State. When we get these Florida commits, until signing day and until they're signed, this is, takes constant work to keep them. So, that's a tough one to keep that relationship and that commitment for that long when you're talking pulling them in from Florida all the way to Ohio. So that's certainly not one to give up on.
Real quick, Chris, before you jump into that, there was a tweet that went out about a couple months ago. A lot of these top guys played on the same Pop Warner team. They were the Ravens, if I remember correctly, was the name of their team. And there was a picture of a lot of these guys. There just so happens to be a guy that we have on our staff. That's a lot of hints in there, too. I'm using the same word a lot. On our staff who coach those young men. And a lot of people believe that some of these visits, like I'm not going to say we have, I think Ohio State, and you're correct with what Urban said in general, but I think we got a really good puncher's chance. And if they show what they can do, it's going to shock a lot of people how Florida State is going to be back dominating the state of Florida in terms of recruiting.
We'll just say that Florida State's coaching staff is extremely optimistic about what they can do, not only with Jeremiah Smith, but a lot of people have been pushing to say that JoJo Trader is going to go to Miami. Like, everybody is like high on it. They're saying that he's like predicted to go there, and Florida State coaches are not saying that at all. Like, and everybody around that facility is saying that JoJo Trader is a lock, that he's coming to Florida State. And conversations that I've heard or seen between the staff and JoJo would speak realms that they're telling the truth. So I'm just going to listen to the coaching staff, because the one guy that I did not listen to the coaching staff on, we ended up landing last year. So this time I'm not going against them. So if they end up being wrong, then I'm going to be wrong with them.
What went through my mind when you went through all of that, and I can't believe this, but I'm going to say it anyway, unfiltered, is that, this show, what are they called? The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, where you see the dude who goes out with the 12 chicks and he's taking them all to, making out with them, going to bed with them and everything. And then the ones that get dissed are completely stunned and shocked that, we had a connection and I thought I was the only one. And so that just sounds a little bit like recruiting during some of these times where, yeah, if you don't know the game and don't know what's going on elsewhere during these visits, you may think like, hey, yeah, we had this connection and he loved it here and we're the one.
That's basically what recruiting is in general. Actually, funny, Coach, you're a historian and coach. You like football, Mark. Barry Switzer had this rule for hiring coaches. He hired coaches based upon how their wives looked. If he thought you had an ugly wife, you couldn't work for him because you couldn't recruit. You got to be able to run games to be able to recruit. And it is the amount of connections, what you're trying to do really, really quick. It's the same thing, man. It's a weird thing, but relationships do matter when it comes to this. And even now with the transfer portal, even though things are going to change a little bit when APR comes back into effect, but you still have the opportunity of, if I miss this kid, I still have a free transfer without any penalty. So I developed this relationship. Let's say he does go to Ohio State. We miss on some of these guys that we have, and in 2 years, we have another opportunity to be able to make something happen. And he hasn't seen the bench because Ohio State keeps bringing more talent in. Well, now we can go reach back and bring that guy back here because you have the pre-established relationship, much like what just happened with Florida State with Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman is clearly a pre-established relationship from recruiting past, even though you have, I think he was more of a tagger cycle, but you still got Odell there, still got Dugans there. So there's some guys that were there that did have that relationship, that rapport. So that's why it's important. But it is definitely like running game. Definitely, The Bachelor is probably the best way to describe it from the recruit side. And from the coach's side, you're trying to do everything to be able to make yourself look pretty to be picked.
It's like a perfect start to the June session of getting recruits on campus for Florida State. They're starting on the 2nd. We'll have offensive tackle Nair Daniels. We'll also have 2024 four-star running back Christian Clark. We also have 2024 four-star linebacker Edwin Spillman, 2024 four-star cornerback Wardrell Mack, and we also have 2024 three-star. Let me see. He's a safety. I don't want to mess his name up. By Rogerius Morgan, and 2024 three-star athlete Jaquarius Marshall, if I'm saying that correctly. But Florida State starting out pretty decent when it comes to recruits in the first weekend of June. But everybody keeps talking about what's the biggest weekend for Florida State as far as who they're having on campus. And you would have to go with June 23rd through the 25th is going to be the biggest weekend. Not that June 14th through the 16th is a pretty big weekend. People have been going back and forth on which weekend's the biggest. But if you do it based off of composite score, the 23rd of June will be the largest amount of talent on campus. Also the most amount of players. But the thing with Jeremiah Smith is that he's coming on a day where he'll be there for 2 days, but he's coming on the 19th, which is a Monday. He's going to be there until Wednesday, and it's going to be basically his show. It's going to be 100% focused on Jeremiah Smith. I personally think that there's a possibility of JoJo Trader coming on that day to see how that official visit goes. He has an official visit with Florida State as well, but a lot of people want to see how this is going to turn out. Like, what does this look like to see the red carpet rolled out toward the top wide receiver recruit in the nation? What is this all conjunction? What does this look like? How bad do they want him versus me? And then you've got the Spillman kid, which on the 2nd through the 4th, a lot of people, Florida State wise, fans wise, they're really second guessing what Randy Shannon's doing at Florida State in the linebacker room. He landed a really decent recruit in the 23 class, but it was only one. He landed Omar Graham Jr. in the 22 class, but he also in the 24 class, I can't remember the kid's name right now that he's already landed verbally, but he's landed him verbally in the linebacker room. And at first everybody was like, this kid's nobody. He's a project. And now everybody in the state of Florida is saying he's the best linebacker in the state of Florida. So Florida State got on him early. They were able to offer him early, get him on campus multiple times, and then he committed to Florida State. But now we're bringing in Spillman. Spillman's a high recruit across the country that a lot of people are looking at. They said that he was a Georgia lean for a while. Don't think that panned out the way that everybody thought it would. So Florida State seems to be in position to lead the recruitment for Spillman going into the weekend that he's coming for his official visit. There's so many that I could bring up that aren't on the second. I'm just bringing up the first weekend and the specialty of Jeremiah Smith. But you've got Colin Fox that's coming on an official visit. You got JoJo Traylor's coming on an official visit. You've got all of the top safeties in the country are coming on the 16th through the 18th, and then a couple more on the 23rd through the 25th. You've got 2 more linebackers that'll be coming. We got a kid that's verbally committed to Michigan that everyone thinks is going to, like Michigan's boards are saying that he's going to decommit and go to Florida State, that he waited on. That was his dream school, that there was just all these things that were brought up. I don't get to just pay attention to Florida State's boards as far as who they say we're going to get, or listen just to the coaches, because when I was listening to Florida State about the safety that was coming out of that Alabama ended up getting wherever he was coming from, Alabama people all told us, all of their beat writers, all of their experts supposedly said that he was a shoe-in to Florida State. They didn't anticipate getting him at all. And all of us were saying that he was going to Alabama. He ended up going to Alabama, but it was just odd because both sides were saying that he was going to the other side. And unlucky for us, we were correct. He was going to Alabama. But we did have a huge question today on a space that we did about our safety position at Florida State. And they wanted to know why we didn't go after this FAU kid that's 5'11", like 185. If people know anything about Pat Surtain, he goes for a lot of length. He likes the 6'2", 6'3", 200-pound guys. And if they don't fit that scheme or they don't fit those measurables, he don't usually go after them. So we had told everybody that Florida State was not interested in him. And 247 put out a thing that Florida State was in contact with him. And everybody kept coming at us saying, well, 247 says that y'all are after him. And I was like, no, correction, 247 said we contacted him. There's a big difference in being after someone and contacting someone. You contact everyone that goes in the portal if it's a possible fill at need. And then he also has an injury that a lot of people didn't know about at the time. He's not coming to Florida State. Surtain didn't ever allude that he wanted him. He never told us anything about needing the kid. I told people that, but I'm just basically clearing up. A lot of people came at me because I said we wasn't going after the kid. So we didn't go after the kid. That's pretty much it. And we can go on from there unless y'all want to know any more recruits.